and it didn't use Flash, that Adobe started to raise a stink about it. We didn't raise a stink about it. We never mentioned the word Adobe or Flash or anything else. We like Adobe. We have a lot of common customers with CS, their Creative Suite software and things like that. So we weren't trying to have a fight. We just decided not to use one of their products in our platform. And so, they started to say a lot of bad things about us in the press and this and that, and it went on for months. And that's why I wrote Thoughts on Flash, was because we were trying to be real professional about this and weren't talking to the press about it. We didn't think it was a matter for the press. And we finally just said, enough is enough. We're tired of these guys trashing us in the press over this. And so we wrote down the reasons why, technically, we didn't choose Flash. And they are just as true today as they were when we wrote it, as they were 6 months or a year before that.
And what would happen, just so this, I promise, we're going to move on to the next thing you don't want to talk about. But on this Flash thing, what would happen? I mean, it's an open market. You do have competitors, particularly in the smartphone side, and you may have significant competitors in the tablet side. We have a couple of companies showing non-iPad tablets here this week.
This is America.
This is America. That's right. Well, it's L.A., but it's part of America. Yeah. What if the market says, hey, it's important enough to us to be able to run not just these videos, but whole websites. There's a great photo editing site. I don't know if you've ever used it, called Picnic. It's a lovely site. It really works like a smooth, slick, native client on your computer. But it's written in, it's a Flash site on the web. I mean, it probably uses other technologies too, but it doesn't work on the iPad. What if people say, the iPad is crippled in this respect?
Well, I'd say two things. Number one, things are packages of emphasis. Some things are emphasized in a product. Some things are not done as well in a product. Some things are chosen not to be done at all in a product. And so different people make different choices. And if the market tells us we're making the wrong choices, we listen to the market. We're just people running this company. We're trying to make great products for people. And so we have at least the courage of our convictions to say, we don't think this is part of what makes a great product. We're going to leave it out. Some people are going to not like that. They're going to call us names. It's not going to be in certain companies' vested interests that we do that, but we're going to take the heat because we want to make the best product in the world for customers. And we're going to instead focus our energy on these technologies, which we think are in their ascendancy and we think are going to be the right technologies for customers. And you know what? They're paying us to make those choices. That's what a lot of customers pay us to do, is to try to make the best products we can. And if we succeed, they'll buy them. And if we don't, they won't. And it'll all work itself out. So far, I'd have to say that people seem to be liking iPads. I mean, we've sold one every 3 seconds since we launched it. So I don't know how it's going to turn out.
Takes you 3 whole seconds to sell one? Can't you do better?
Right now, I'm just worried that it's taking us 3 whole seconds to make one. Because we could be selling them faster, it seems like.
Obviously, you have shy and retiring opinions about this. You've been emailing a lot lately. This is riveting to a lot of people. I know it sounds silly outside of Silicon Valley, but a lot of people are riveted. What's happened in your communication style? Because you've been emailing people, you've been emailing people at Valleywag and stuff like that.
Well, he never identified himself as a journalist, but I was working late one night. It actually was like 2 in the morning, I think.
Yeah.
And I was working on, I'm making a presentation next Monday, and I was working on that presentation, and this guy starts emailing me these obnoxious emails, and I'm just enough of a sucker that I want to, like, straighten this guy's thinking out. So I start to, respond to him, and he responds back. He's not, he's no dummy, and he's responding back, and we got into this conversation. It was kind of entertaining.
Yeah, it was.
And then he publishes it. So,
well, a lot of
that's okay.
Are getting published.
Yeah, I know.
You just like to email now? What's happened?
But you are like even just customers, not just that exchange. So they're very short a lot of times.
I've actually always done a bit of that.
Okay. All right. So you had a prototype of one of your products that was wound up in a bar, and you've heard of? Have you heard of? Has this come to your attention? I don't know, because you're the CEO, and I don't know whether lower levels are handling it, but and then there was a blog that paid somebody some money. We don't really know the whole story because the investigation, I guess, is underway with the police. But I wanted to ask you your reaction to sort of a duality about this, because I think there are people in the public and in journalism who don't approve of somebody, of sort of checkbook journalism, if you want to call it that, the way that was done, if what we know is true. And I want to keep stressing that because I don't know that we know the whole thing yet. But on the other hand, then the police go and they don't issue a subpoena, which somebody's lawyers could fight in court about taking this guy's computers, but they go and get a search warrant and they grab them. And one presumes, and again, I don't know, but I know if they took my computer, there's notes and things for many companies and many sources and stories and things that wouldn't necessarily be relevant to whatever the police are looking at. It was just like a giant grab of a journalist's sort of assets of all the background of what that guy was doing.
Or a guy's assets, at least.
Well,
you could debate what a journalist is. But
we can debate it, but I mean, we think bloggers are journalists. We run a blog, so we think bloggers are journalists. And the New York Times runs blogs. The Wall Street Journal runs blogs. I don't think that's much of a debate anymore. But anyway, the point is, so where do people come down on this? I mean, what do you think? What do you come down?
I can just tell you what. There is an ongoing investigation by the DA, and I'm not current on it. But I can tell you what I do know.
Okay.
One of our employees, to make a wireless product work well, you have to test it. And there's no way to test it in a lab completely, so you actually have to carry them and test them out. And one of our employees was carrying one, and there's a debate as to whether it was left in a bar or stolen out of his bag, but I don't know the answer to that. And the person that ended up with the phone decided they would try to sell it to somebody, so they called Engadget and they called Gizmodo. It turned out that the person that got the phone tried to activate it by plugging it into his roommate's computer, a woman. And she saw him evidently destroying some evidence. And she's the one that called the police. And that's why they got the search warrant.
Did she call the police or did she call Apple?
She called the police. And because she didn't want to get implicated, supposedly. I'm just telling you what I've been told. And so the police came and felt that they needed to grab some stuff before it all disappeared. And so this is a story that's amazing. It's got theft. It's got buying stolen property. It's got extortion. I'm sure there's sex in there somewhere.
Really?
And so somebody should make a movie out of this.
Well, we've got some movie producers.
And it was reported that the police broke down somebody's door, which they, to my best of my knowledge, never did. And so it's just, this whole thing is very colorful. And the DA's investigating it. And to my knowledge, they have somebody from the courts that is making sure that they only see stuff that relates to this case and no other cases. I believe they're taking great pains to do that. And so I don't know where it will end up. It's really up to the DA.
So the last question before we get to really easy stuff like Google, and about platforms and bigger where things are going. Do you have any comments on what's going on at Foxconn because of all the press around?
Oh, sure, yeah. We're pretty on top of that. I actually think Apple does one of the best jobs of any companies in our industry, and maybe in any industry, of understanding the working conditions in our supply chain. And we're extraordinarily diligent and extraordinarily transparent about it. You can go on our website and read, our report that we publish once a year. And we go into these suppliers, and we go into their secondary and tertiary suppliers, places where nobody's ever gone before and audited them before, and we're pretty rigorous about it. So I can tell you a few things that we know, and we're all over this.